past 70 plus episodes, we've had on art directors, copywriters, media planners, account managers, PR executives, students, freelancers, and CEOs. Today, we have on Austin Navickis. His role is unique to those previously listed. He is a content creator at Energy BBDO here in Chicago. Energy is a full-service creative agency, a part of the BBDO family, and is known for its agile creativity and their heartwarming extra gum commercials that will have you almost in tears. Now, I knew Austin in college as we were a part of the same advertising program. His brand is powerful, precise, and unique. He was, is, and will be known to me as one of the most talented content creators. Always in a computer lab, carrying a camera, or looking stylish with his Thursday boots, Austin tells us the importance of figuring out your brand, then executing in a way to get your dream job that aligns with it. Look, content is everywhere, and if you're listening to this, you understand the importance of consistently good content. So, to see that, visit Austin's website, see his amazing vertical videos, and his hand-picked list of top creators you should follow for inspiration. To see all that, head to our Instagram at Entering Ad. Now, on with the show. This is the Breaking and Entering Advertising podcast, and as usual, I am your accomplice, Gino Schellenberger. Kick it, Mikey. Austin Navickis, welcome to the Breaking and Entering Advertising podcast. How are you doing tonight? Good to see you.
I know. Good to see you, Gino. I'm happy to be here. I have a nice little glass of bourbon sitting next to me.
Good.
And I'm ready to go. I'm excited. So let's do this.
Okay. Well, we're good friends. We both graduated from the University of Illinois. When did you graduate?
I just graduated this May. So May of 2020.
This May. And I was May of 2020. So a lot went on from that whole year span, and you're doing okay. You got through, you graduated, you have a job. So we're gonna throw this back. Earlier episodes, I interviewed a lot of people that were recent grads. So it's good to throw back to my roots, and it's good to have you on because you're a content creator at Energy BBDO in Chicago, Illinois. We're gonna talk about that because I always remembered in college you were super involved in our AAF. And you were like this personal branding guru, wizard with editing and taking videos, content creation, literally like the perfect job for you. So let's break that down and how you got there. What is a content creator?
Yeah, a content creator is really somebody that makes any kind of content that lands, I would say, on digital or social platforms. So for me, I'm making anything from graphics to GIFs, videos, reels, stories that land on, Giphy, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, pretty much any social platform.
So are you a social media like content creator? Are you in social media? Or can it expand beyond that?
Yeah, no. So I work with a social team. Specifically, the client that I work on is Champion at Energy BBDO, and we have a team that we work on kind of different executions for Champion social media platforms. So they come to me with, I would say, anywhere from like 3 or like 7 projects a week. Sometimes it'll be like day of. And yeah, all kinds of, it could be ads, it could be like Instagram reels. It's really like anything that they ask for, I make. So
really,
yeah.
What else could they ask you to make? So like videos, Instagram posts, you can do it all on the spot like this. You can do anything.
I try to. Pretty much I figure out a way to make anything they ask for. So my first thing that went to market was GIFs that went on Giphy, so that people can use them on their like Instagram stories and stuff like that.
Okay. What can I
Maybe
type in to look at that? Like
um,
champion shoes?
if you just go on like Champion, or if you go on like Giphy, you can look up Champion,
Hmm.
and find their page, and it has some of the
We
gifts on there.
we can talk a whole podcast episode from like how Champion made the comeback that they did. I don't know how they did it. I remember growing up, like Champion was like this loser brand that you couldn't really rep because it was like cheap and like not cool. But now it's like it took a complete 180. It's like this cool like fashion influencer brand that like some really popular people are wearing, and like it's just become generally accepted. Like, do you remember that when it like back in the day it wasn't like that cool?
Oh yeah, like I definitely remember that. Like walking into like I don't know Kohl's when I was in like elementary school,
Sure.
and my mom would like try to like give me that. I was like, no.
I
Um,
can't wear champion. And now I'm like, I don't mind that. I'll wear that. Absolutely.
yeah,
How
yeah.
did that happen? Do you know? Like, do you have any insight on that? Do you bring that up to like your team? Because it's crazy to me the comeback.
Honestly, like I have not asked that yet. Like since I started the Monday after I graduated in
Mm,
May, and it's just kind of been like hit the ground running.
right. You have no
Work,
time to you're
yeah,
going. Yeah. I mean, if you're doing 7 projects a week, that's one a day, right?
yeah.
Um, or more than one a day, 5 days a week. Um, wow. So that's I would be interested if you can get back to us. Maybe we can have a follow up on how that brand, who led the charge on that. Was it Energy? Was it another company? Because that's intriguing to me. But enough about Champion. Let's bring it back to you because you're a content creator. You just graduated from the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign, and you got a job the Monday after you graduated. So the whole point of this podcast is everybody kind of wants to be in your shoes, and we can talk about the boot company that you work for in your shoes as well in this podcast because that's really cool. But let's get it back. How did you know like you wanted to study advertising? Did you study advertising? Is my first question. And how did you discover this route?
Yeah, so I did come in as an ad major, which is pretty uncommon. I think I
Mm-hmm.
heard you say on a podcast that one third of advertising graduates at U of I are direct admit. So
Mm-hmm.
I would be in that one third. Um, but yeah, I just kind of stuck with it and loved it. Originally, I applied for like marketing and business administration, management, stuff like that.
Sounds
And
gross.
yeah, and advertising was my second option, and
Okay.
yeah, I got denied, but I ended up loving it. Steve Hall, who is the first professor you have at U of I feel like he sells everybody on the program. So
Yeah, he's good.
yeah, but yeah, I guess like taking it back when I was a kid, um, I remember the first like two videos I watched on YouTube. Um, they were "Beautiful Girls" by Sean Kingston and "Crank That" by Soldier Boy.
Oh,
It's a
those are
music.
good.
Yeah, in like the second grade. And it's like since then I've just been so fascinated with YouTube. Growing up, I wanted to be like a creator, and the thought of being a YouTuber was just the coolest thing ever to me.
Still is.
Yeah. I just never like knew what my niche would be to kind of apply that to YouTube. Um, but yeah, it's just kind of always like a passion that I wanted to pursue. Come high school, um, I joined this class is called Media Studies, and we basically produced the news for our high school. And our teacher let us make really any kind of videos that were high quality enough to make it on the news. So we made basically spec ads, like highlight reels for sporting events,
Hmm.
um, editorial pieces. There was even some like vlog type videos on there.
What was your role in that?
I mean, we really did everything. So that
Yeah.
was my first experience using a camera to take pictures and videos.
Mm-hmm.
I also did editing. I was an anchor on that. I produced some shows. So I really got to have my hands on lots of different stuff there.
Okay, so it started off early, and that's good because not a lot of people know early on what they want to do or the route that they want to go. Some people like don't even know that still, later in their life, and that's okay. But it's always nice when you have that path kind of figure it out early on. So you went to U of I, you kind of went all in on like this content creation realm, whether you knew that was a career path or not.
Yeah. My freshman year, I ended up joining AAF at Illinois. And for anybody listening that didn't go to Illinois, basically AAF at Illinois is broken up into like subcommittees. And the one that I joined was for media production called Control V, and that was kind of that's where I really got direction and experience that kind of catapulted me into my career today. So
Yeah. And you were really good at it. You were like the president of that subcommittee. You were like top dog in that, and you were really good. I remember coming to you a lot for help with videos from my subcommittee. So you definitely have a lot of credibility, and I'm glad that you found. I mean, I always thought you knew early on, like you always had your shit together early on. Um, and that was really cool. Like even your personal branding, and I want to bring this up because as we're giving advice to students, and while you're on the podcast, is to help students break in and follow a similar path as you, or they can be inspired by it. I think from the get go, from when you were on my radar, was because you were really good at personal branding. You had a good website, your socials clean, and it just seems like all kind of fit well together. Your LinkedIn, all these different parts of your social, your Google search, all kind of lined up together. So speak to your personal branding. I mean, and how you kind of made it so clean and so consistent.
yeah, so um, I feel like I could walk up to anybody on campus and they would know me as like social media guy or photo guy
Hmm.
or clothing guy, right?
You
Like
always had
that.
a camera.
Yeah, like that's what people always knew me for. And I
That's a
think,
brand.
yeah, no, and to
It's
your
a good
point,
one.
I worked very hard to like figure out what my kind of style and aesthetic was. I don't think people need to be as like anal about it as I am, but literally everything I like, from the music I listen to the clothes I wear to like the color palette that I use on my Instagram and my website, it's like everything is very like cohesive. Um, and
Hmm.
I just, I think listening to kind of like older like mentors in AAF, the business fraternity I was in, and like professors, everyone was really drilling like personal branding, and I I took that to heart. I kind of cleaned up my appearance. I really worked on my resume. I put so many hours into my website, and it went through so many iterations before I actually launched it. So,
What do
um,
you use for your website? WordPress?
now I use Wix. I think
Okay.
Wix and Squarespace are both really good options.
What's it called? Let the people know.
AustinNav.com. Pretty
Okay.
simple.
We'll link it, but austinnav.com, simple. And how was that process? So you put a lot of hours in it. Maybe you could probably get a simpler website and not take as long as you, but you were kind of like a perfectionist. It seems like it, but you can probably get a website going in less than 20 hours, right?
Oh yeah. It really isn't that hard to get your work on there, especially like videos. You can just have a page full of videos or pictures. But for me, I modeled my website off of an agency's website that I really like, which is Wolfgang LA. And so I kind of treat everything like a project. You go in, it gives like background on the company, like
Mm-hmm.
what the project was, what the results were, if I could like obtain those. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, they're just talking to professors. Like that was a really smart way to go about it. And even recruiters said they would, or recruiters, people I would network with, whatever,
Mm-hmm.
they would look at my website and say like, this looks like an agency's website. So I think that's a great tip for anyone building an online portfolio, to treat it like you're an agency and not so much like a person, if that makes
I
sense.
like that a lot. Interesting. So you can model it off, like you said, you model it off one of the agencies you really respected. That's legal. You're not stealing their content. You could take everybody, all art and creative is inspired, right? So
Yeah,
that's legal and that's encouraged.
yeah, no, that's I think at this point there's like no original ideas. Everything's derivative of something, and
Hmm.
definitely changed it up quite a bit since that
Yeah.
original version. But no, I think that's a great idea to just find some portfolios or agencies you really like and kind of start there.
Yeah. So, how would you describe your personal brand? Like, up in college and up to now, like, where are you at now in your recent grad life? Are you imposter syndrome? Are you confident? Like, what do you got?
I think and just like listening to this podcast and lots of videos, I think nobody has it figured out. Um,
Mm-mm.
and and like that's perfectly okay. I find myself like if I don't know things, I figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
I'm learning like every day at work, and like everything that I have made pretty much has gone to market. So I'm like, I
That's
must be
good.
doing something right.
Right.
And my boss and the people I work with have been so supportive. So um,
Mm-hmm.
there's definitely moments where I'm like concerned, but I always figure it out. Uh,
Yeah, that's good.
so yeah, yeah,
Okay. Um, so let's peel it back a little bit. So what I've learned so far was you kind of worked yourself backwards. You kind of knew what you wanted to get into early on, whether you knew the exact title or not. Basically, in high school, you had a pretty decent idea. So you're really lucky and fortunate for that. But then you worked your ass off. You worked hard. In college, you had a very reputable, like good brand. You were the camera guy, social media editing, producer. You were that guy. You're the creator.
yeah. I mean,
Um, and
yeah,
then and then you got. I know. I think our connection is a little iffy right now. But then you were really good and really involved in the college program AAF in the RSO, and you went all in on that. You did really well as well. Did you have internships? What else was in that mix?
yeah. So I guess I would say that my first kind of I think of the best way to say it. So basically, I rushed a business fraternity my sophomore year, and I started making videos for them. Someone else organization um, like asked me to make a video for a different organization, and that turned into my first paid gig.
Okay.
From there, I started freelancing a lot, um, and I yeah, I was having a hard time finding internships. And so my a professor that I had, Steve Raquel, who I know you had on
Mm-hmm.
this podcast, he told
Mm-hmm.
me to like just pitch a video or videos to the company I was working at, which was basically like a public utilities place back home. I was just like mowing lawns
Mm-hmm.
for the most part, but he's like pitch a video to them and see if they like it. So that's what I ended up doing, and they loved it, and they ended up offering me basically a social media internship. Um,
Yeah.
and I think that's like a great like piece of advice that we can get to later. But if you don't see opportunities, make them for yourself. I think that's something anybody can take. Um, but yeah, so that turned into a social media internship where I was doing like some content strategy, like managing Facebook, and making content for that as well.
Mm-hmm.
I also interned for Thursday Boot Company, which is a like shoe and leather goods company out of New York, and that kind of started with I owned a few pairs of boots. I was really into menswear. I still kind of am, but um, I owned a few pairs of their boots, and I ended up becoming a college ambassador for them. And I was killing it. I was making like really creative content, and kind of outside of the box from what they normally do, and they kind of came to me for some side projects. Of course, I said yes, and they loved it. And I was like, "Is there anything else that I can do for you?" And they ended up offering me a content internship with them. And
Nice.
yeah, so that's what I did after my junior year, and then I did that all the way through senior year as well. And I
Did you
still
get
work.
some cool boots?
Oh, dude, I have.
Pull them up.
All right, hold on. Give me 1 sec.
We're gonna put this on the social. So while he's pulling these up, obviously, if you're just listening, you can't see the boots. But if you go to our Instagram at entering ad, you can see these boots now. Let's pull them up.
I mean, I have like these are my favorite ones. Some combat boots.
Wow,
I mean, I have so many pairs of boots, man. I tell you what, like it's ridiculous. I have like maybe 12 pairs of boots they
they're
sold
nice.
last year.
What size do you wear?
I think these are like a 9.5, maybe.
Okay.
Do
Um,
you need
you
some?
bring up you bring up a really interesting point, and you are probably one of the most hireable people on the planet because every single company needs somebody doing social media, and not only that, understanding social media. Every Gen Zer kind of understands the social norms. You're not going to be able to post 3 in-feed posts a day, right? That's weird. You're not going to post 100 snap stories per day unless it's somebody's birthday. We all know those people. But you can actually create the content and create it super well. So this is a really interesting position. And if anybody that's interested in advertising out there is not sure they're going to break into like copywriting or art direction, this is a really interesting path. If you're good at editing and you can make the videos and you can take the good photos, this is really inspiring stuff, because any business you go to and you have a pre-made video that you show that looks amazing, that's kind of like with their content, they're going to want you and they're going to pay you in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah, no, that's one thing that I talked about with my bosses a little bit after they hired me, and and that was that I noticed that vertical video was going to be kind of like the next like big thing. So I started producing
Mhm.
a lot of vertical video to put in my
Yes.
portfolio over the past like year or so. Um,
I remember you started doing that early on.
yeah, and I like making content specifically for social media, and that's something
Mhm.
that they're looking for. A lot of times people
Everybody wants that.
Yeah, a lot of times people are just looking to make, like big budget commercials. And to be honest, that's not really what interests me. I like how like quick and reactive social media is. Like less bureaucracy, like
Yeah.
just it doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be like good enough
S-
to get it out.
And it takes, and not a lot of big companies realize that yet. This agile content is hard for these large companies to deal with. We've got the Burger Kings of the world on Twitter that do really well. The Wendy's, the Burger Kings. You see the brands interacting. Like Moon Pie interacts on Twitter really well. But now, if we get that content for big brands all around on social, like that's what people want to see. They want to see like a real brand voice in one like singular person, rather than, I mean, those like fake promotion tweets and buying followers. Like nobody wants to see that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
But how'd you get hired at Energy? That's my question.
Yeah. So I guess it goes back to last November. So I attended AAF's SACC event virtually, and I ended up talking with Margaret Moore, who is a recruiter at Energy, and she really liked me, and we hit it off. She was telling me about Flair, saying, "Oh, I think you'd be a great fit," um, and so then I really started to research Flair, and
Yeah.
then
What you This is your first time mentioning Flair. Is this
sure.
the production part of Energy BBDO in Chicago?
Production and they do like some content creation too. Honestly, I don't work for Flair. I just work specifically for Energy
Okay.
on the Champion account. But I mean, the people that in Flair do very similar stuff and work very closely with Energy. Um, but yeah, so fast forward to this past spring, we were having an Advasion event, which normally we would be going to Chicago to tour offices, but couldn't do that because of COVID.
Right.
And um, so we had speakers from a bunch of different agencies around the country. One of them happened to be um, Energy BBDO, and Greg Morrison, who is
Yeah.
the
The alum.
Yep, senior account director for Jack Daniels. He graduated from U of I. He's actually from my hometown. So
Oh, there
um,
you go. Double whammy.
yeah, and I met him in New York, I think, last year for SACC as well.
Yeah, he was always chewing gum because they have the extra account. I
Yeah,
remember he would have the
exactly.
5 gum and the extra. He's a good guy. He's like a
Yeah,
global director now.
yeah, I know.
He's like a big deal over there.
Yeah, he is a big deal. Super nice guy though. And I was just really annoying on this call, and I just kept asking questions, and it got to the point. He's like, "Austin, again? Like, what do you need now?" Um,
Hmm.
And so, just kind of by bugging him enough, he knew who I was. And then by the end of the call, I was like, "Hey, is there somebody I can talk to about content creation at Energy? I would love to just have someone look at my portfolio and pick their brain a little bit." Um, and yeah, so he ended up setting me up with some people in Flair, and that was just kind of networking. Nothing came of that. And then probably like a week or two later, I get an email saying that he recommended me for a freelance like motion designer
What does that
opportunity
mean?
on Champion. I mean, motion design is just like uh,
What you've been doing?
I mean, kind of. It's pretty similar. I think my job would probably look the same if I was a motion designer. To be honest, they would
Hmm.
probably have me working on the same stuff. But it's a little bit more like animation based and like I mean like moving graphics. I don't know how else to explain it,
Sure,
but
that's fair.
um, yeah, which is not really my forte. And to be honest, when I interviewed with him, I was like, I'm teaching myself After Effects, but this is not my um,
Hmm.
niche. I do more shooting and editing. Um,
Yeah.
and but they still liked my portfolio. They had me talk to a few people, and they ended up hiring me.
How
And
long? How long did you do the freelance for? Give me the details on that.
yeah, so I started, like I said, the Monday after I graduated, and my original contract was only for like 2 weeks.
No
Um,
way, really?
yeah, and then they just like kept extending me
Yeah,
throughout the
I'm
summer.
sure. That's
Um,
crazy. You signed a 2-week contract. They just get, hey, we need you another 2 weeks. We need another 2 weeks.
yeah,
Yeah,
well, they ended up like they realized I wasn't gonna get my first few projects done, so then they extended me the first time,
not a
and then
bad strategy right there.
I mean, well, it wasn't on purpose, but
It worked out.
yeah, but then they extended me again because they really liked what I was doing, and then,
Yes.
yeah, then I ended up getting the offer.
What were
For
you doing like during your freelance? Like, were you doing like were you going above and beyond? Like, how do you what was it like in the freelance limbo world where you wanted to work there really badly? They were still kind of testing the waters with you. What was that like the mentally? Now it's all hindsight. You got the job, life is good. You don't even remember that, but try to give us like paint the picture on like what you might have done to be successful during a freelance.
Sure. So I mean, it was definitely pretty like nerve wracking. Like the first 2 weeks, there's just like a lot to take in, like figuring out, like having like critiques and figuring out softwares and like workflow, communication, like all that stuff was very overwhelming on top of trying to produce stuff. So, um,
Sure.
yeah, and honestly, like at first I did feel a lot of pressure because I was like, if I don't perform, like this is not gonna end very well.
Right.
Uh, and I wanted to work there, so definitely a lot of pressure. But I think just like communicating and being honest definitely helped. And I had like have the best boss ever. Like listens to me and supports me and believes in me, um, and trusts me.
Mhm.
And I would say that about a lot of the people that are like that surround me in my
That's
job.
great.
They're all really supportive and trust me to make good stuff. They're like, that's why we brought you on. We like the stuff you're making, so just do
Of
that for
course.
us.
Oh, that's great to have. We
Yeah,
love that. We will. I wish everybody in the world has that. That's great.
yeah, it's pretty
So they
lucky.
supported you, and then your confidence grew, and that's what they hire you for. When you do those interviews, they see your portfolio, and they hire you, or you get the internship. You have to remember that's why they hired you, and you need to be that person, if not better. But don't rest on that. Go all in on your strengths that they saw in you in the beginning.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of got to a point where I was like, I was doing a lot of like motion design stuff at the beginning, which I mean is what they hired me for. But
Sure.
um, like I said, I was upfront in the beginning and saying that's not what my strong suit was. But I was teaching myself, and I want to learn. Just might not be there right away, and that wasn't like communicated like all the way through like the rest of the team. And so I kind of had a meeting with them and explained that, and they're like, all right, well then let's just pivot to what you're really good at.
Let's go. Nice.
Yeah, so
That was
that's
it scary to do that?
um honestly a little bit, but at the same time, like I figured they were gonna take it pretty well, and they were all for it. Like they ended up having me go to the store in Chicago to do a shoot. Um, so you know, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Stuff like
So
when
it
I'm
worked out.
and they loved it. Like the client loved it. So um, yeah, it's definitely like smart to uh, kind of have that tough conversation, I guess you would say, because it benefited both parties in the end.
Where do you see yourself in the next 2 years? Do you want to pursue content creation? Like what's the growth like? I'm not familiar with the hierarchy of a content creator chain of command, I guess.
Um, yeah, I don't know that I would say that I am either, to be honest.
Sure.
No, I know. I mean, social media is just kind of like such a new, like field, and I think you know, like there's definitely I don't know. I mean, I would like to eventually kind of oversee projects, in the production of social media for a few clients. But um,
Hmm.
yeah, and I mean, I still like to freelance on the side. I like to make stuff for myself as well. So I
Sure.
stay busy.
Yeah, I bet you do. Yeah. What advice would you have now for those looking to break into content creation or advertising in general? Like you did it, you picked it apart a little bit, but knowing what you know now and you can talk to your freshman year self in college, what would you say to yourself?
Um, well, I already said, um, if you don't see opportunities, make them. I think that applies to lots of different projects, whether it was like that public utilities internship that I got, Thursday Boots, even like finagled my way into like working with like David Dobrik and Casey Neistat.
No, you
Um,
didn't say that.
yeah, that was just the craziest day ever.
What was that for Bumble?
Yeah, that was when Bumble was on campus.
Bumble was on campus. I don't remember why or how. And I remember everybody was like, get to the quad. David Dobrik's giving out free MacBook computers. So I like sprinted to the quad and then I didn't see him. And then I left and then I saw videos of Casey Neistat there and I missed out. So you tell me from your perspective, because my story is not interesting at all.
Yeah, so I was not at that quad event. I knew he was there, but I think I was in class, and
That's good.
our friend Michael Dietrich, he was
Hmm.
there. He was one of the videographers that got asked to help with that.
How did he
Um,
get asked?
I think there were some Bumble ambassadors like
Okay.
on campus, and I think I had a few friends honestly that
They were
got asked
doing the,
to. Yeah.
okay.
And they just kind of like knew Bumble ambassadors, like had classes with them
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
sororities,
The
stuff.
girls. Yeah.
Yeah. And um yeah, so then he had like David Dobrik had a speaking event later that night, and I did not want to stand in like the 2 hour line to get in. So I was like, I'll just show up and maybe say I'm like a photographer, videographer, whatever, and see if I can get in. And Michael showed up and did the exact same thing. We just happened to like bump into the right person and convinced him to. I think he was like the like moderator or something for for David. And
Oh, nice.
yeah, so
Where
we
was
ended
this at?
it was in the uni.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And yeah, then we ended up like crossing paths with Casey, and he asked us to help film.
Oh my
Um
gosh. How
and
crazy was that?
man, Casey Neistat is such a big influence on me. He's one of my favorite YouTubers, like a
I
big
loved
reason.
his vlogs growing up.
Yeah, man, I loved his vlogs. Like, introduced the world of advertising to me, like the
Hmm.
campaigns he did with like Nike,
Samsung.
Samsung, Mercedes Benz. Like,
Shout out Santi Pochit.
yeah,
Santi's episode was great.
just
When he
listen to him.
worked, yeah, he flew Casey on a drone, and you worked with Casey. What was it like working with him?
Man, that Casey, for one, that was like so surreal, but he was just like the nicest guy ever. He was offering to he brought I don't know if he brought us up, but somehow he ended up in like the vlog squad's like green room. Um and we got up there and Casey was like offering to grab us like drinks and food and stuff like that. And
Hmm.
I was talking to him on the side and he was giving me advice and just talking about like what I wanted to do with my career. And
No
yeah,
way.
he's like the nicest guy ever. So
Nice. I'm glad you had that moment. Did he teach you anything?
um
Show you a little camera work?
I don't know if it was like teaching me anything, but it was kind of just more like be prepared for like advertising what you're about to get into. It wasn't like a bad thing, but just like
Yeah, be ready. Yeah.
know how cutthroat it is. So
Yeah. Yeah.
um, yeah, so I guess bringing it back, um, yeah, just like make opportunities for yourself. If you don't have the internship you want, make opportunities. Another thing that I would say is if you're trying to build a portfolio, like start small and start local. I started my portfolio with like my business friend, and
Hmm.
then like word of mouth spread and friends and that hired me. The same way the public utilities place I worked at, they through word of mouth, I ended up doing a video for the city of Rockford. Um, So those are like great ways to kind of network and build a portfolio with, you don't need the biggest companies in the world,
No,
to get experience and get paid.
love it.
Yeah.
Great.
What else would I say? I would say one thing I've struggled with quite a bit is finding inspiration, and so I would say always look for new inspiration for your work and in your like creativity. It's the worst when you're creative and you feel like you can't come up with anything new, or every project you work on feels the same. So I would
Yeah,
say
I imagine.
look in all corners of the internet trying to find new creators or artists or um, really anything you think could inspire you, and try to pull some of that into your own work. Whether it's
Love
like
it.
techniques or aesthetics, anything like that.
Do you have any like resources that you follow pretty consistently that you want to shout out now? If you don't, that's fine. You can send me it after, and I can link it on the Instagram. Anything at the top of like you have anything bookmarked that you follow a lot?
I'm not an avid reader. Like I said, I watch a lot of YouTube videos.
Sure. Like who?
Yeah, so Daniel Schiffer, especially if you're trying to like shoot um,
Hmm.
product commercials in your house. I think Daniel Schiffer really like revolutionized that for people.
Okay.
And he was a really big influence on me to start with.
Sure.
Um, Peter McKinnon, I think, is great. My favorite creator right now is Spencer Miller. He is very well known for animating pictures. He's like a concert photographer,
Sure.
and he's also worked with like Disney, like AMAs, and that's been a huge influence on my work over the past year. A photographer named Alan Pounder, I think that's how you say it. Um, yeah,
Nice.
just like tons of different creators. I try to find new techniques and styles that I can implement in my own. So um,
Great.
yeah,
Okay, then we'll have to link those. So go to entering ad on Instagram, and we'll have those all listed out, and we'll let you think about some more in the meantime. How can people reach out to you, and do you want them to reach out to you?
yeah, definitely reach out to me. I'm pretty terrible about using my LinkedIn, to be honest.
So what
Um,
do you prefer?
Yeah, so I would say probably like Instagram. Pretty
Okay.
active on there. So, and my ad is AB Navickis. Um, yeah, reach out to me, shoot me a DM, make a cool video and tag me in it. I'll give it a watch.
Hey, nice. I like
Yeah,
that.
and I love looking at people's portfolios and speaking with like young creatives. I speak at U of I a lot. I even go back to my high school and speak. So any way that I can help, I would love to. So shoot your resume, your portfolio, anything you're working on to my way, and I'll check it out.
Perfect. All right, Austin, that's all I got. I love your story. You're going to do great things in energy and content creation and whatever you choose. So, really proud of you, and we'll be in touch. Absolutely.
All right, thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Appreciate it. Thank you all for listening to this entire episode of the Breaking and Entering Advertising podcast. I hope you enjoyed this week's guest. Make sure you go and connect with them on LinkedIn. Tell them that Breaking and Entering sent you. Now, thank you to Mikey Malarkey, our audio technician, and Buchun Zhang, our creative director, as well as the student team from the Midnight Oil Agency at the University of Illinois. Can't do it without you all. Thank you very much. We will see you all next week with another amazing guest.